Sports, a championship edition of In Touch with Indiana Sports, powered by the Hoosier.com. John Alden with you, and it is a pleasure to be here with you on a Tuesday. If you happen to be listening to this when it comes out on a Tuesday, whether it's Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, maybe it's not even Tuesday. Maybe you're listening to this on your way down to the national championship game in Miami. Wherever you are and however you are listening, it is a pleasure to have you on board today. Long episode, another long episode in store. Of course, I'm sure many of you expect these by now. There's just so much to get into when it comes to Indiana football as they prepare for their first ever national championship game appearance against the Miami Hurricanes. So much to talk about. Mitchell Paige is on for the longest segment he and I have ever done. Looking forward to sharing that with you all. And if stick around to the end of that. At the end of that segment, he and I share kind of really our personal thoughts on what this kind of journey has been like. It's not super cheesy, at least I don't think it is. Maybe you'll think differently, but I hope that you'll listen to the entirety of that, just because I feel like both he and I were very I feel like we were both happy with how all of it just kind of went, how it turned out. And I feel like we got across what we wanted to get across. And I hope many of you, and I believe many of you, are probably thinking the same things whenever it comes to how this game will make you feel, and especially if they're able to really get it done and win a national championship. So we'll get right into that segment here shortly. We're also going to hear from Derrick Jackson, a DB from the Bill Mallory era, who we've had on a few times on this show. I wanted to get his thoughts too, just as somebody who's been around a long time, has seen the bad days longer than myself, and maybe can relate to more of you guys who have seen, who've seen more of the bad than the good, I'll say. And most of us have seen more bad than good, but those who have seen a bigger chunk of it is kind of more of what I'm referring to. So we'll bring on Derrick Jackson at the end for a few minutes, and then we'll wrap up this show, put a nice little gift wrap bow on it. And then the next time we'll talk will be after Indiana either wins or comes up just short of being 2025-26 national champions. And I'm going to go and say this, since I'm kind of laying everything out there. I'm putting a hold on everything this week that's not football. Of course, there's some things to react to when it comes to Indiana basketball and the like, and we'll get into that. But today is not the day for it. So if you're somebody who's more basketball than football, even though football is in the title game, then this is just not the show for you. But I do believe that many of you are here for Indiana football, and I believe many of you have been here for Indiana football from the start because of how things have been going. So I'm not trying to knock basketball, but there's something that has never happened before that's going to happen next Monday. And I do have one more thing to mention here in just a moment, but without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the rest of today's show. But first, this is the last time I believe that I'll be showing you this. It's your last chance. It might not be your last chance to order this, but it's the last time that I believe I'll be promoting this. That is the Big Game Football Factory Indiana Hoosiers official 2025-26 college football playoff limited edition Adidas team football. Again, I say this every single week. If you are a collector, if you are looking to add to some memorabilia for this Indiana football season, you want to find, maybe you just don't have that thing to remember the season by, then this is something you could be looking for. It's $174.99. That gives you free shipping because it's an order of over $100. This could be for you, could be a gift for somebody. I know we're past the holidays, but maybe you have an Indiana fan in your life that is just loving this Indiana football season. These footballs, by the way, there's one for each team, and they're supposed to be catered to the throwing style of each quarterback for each team. So, of course, this one being catered to Heisman Trophy winner Fernando Mendoza. So, again, just go to biggameusa.com/shop/competitive footballs. If you pause the screen right now, you can see the URL right in front of you and find the link that way. Or you can just type in Big Game Football Factory and Indiana Hoosiers, and I'm sure it'll take you exactly where you need to go. So right there, if you need something in your life to remember this Indiana football season by, look no further than Big Game Football Factory. All right, fellas, ladies, gents, let's welcome back in another time Mitchell Paige, here on In Touch with Indiana Sports. We're at the end of the line, my friend. The end of the line for anyone in college football. Indiana Hoosiers football has made it to the pinnacle. They will be playing for the national championship trophy, a chance to be the first 16-0 team in the history of this era of Division I football against the Miami Hurricanes on Monday. You were in Atlanta for the Peach Bowl, the semifinal. We'll get your thoughts on that, but I just want to start by handing it to you. What are your emotions, thoughts, everything about where Indiana football is right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's just unbelievable. You always talk about only one team gets to be ultimately happy at the end of the year. However many teams there are in Division One, or maybe they won a bowl game, or they had a better season. Where Indiana was for pretty much an entire history. Like, let's think of some positives, get going into next year. But one team gets to talk about, yeah, we're happy we won the national championship and we were better than everybody else. Indiana has a chance to prove just that in a couple of days. So far, so good. They've been better than everybody that they played 15 times. They've been the better team and have one more chance to go prove it against a really good Miami team.
Yeah, I think you laid it out perfectly with all that. Just because I think you could ask any IU fan right now, or even outsider. I think this has become not only the most insane story, definitely in recent history of college football, maybe of all time, but it definitely also ranks up there as one of the most insane stories just in the history of sports in general. I know you hear underdog stories all the time at different levels of sports and in different, leagues, whatever it might be. But I'm trying to avoid stating the obvious, but Indiana is a game away from really tying. We talk about tying the bow on these segments at the end all the time. Indiana will sign, seal, deliver this long 2-season journey, I guess, if you will. Maybe it hasn't even really seemed like it's been that long, but if they're able to pull off what they should do, which is, I mean, they were favored by 7.5 to start off when the line opened up after they won this past week, and I think it's now gotten up to 8.5 at the time of this recording.
Oh
If
my
they're
gosh,
able
are you
to,
serious? I was just about to pull up what the line is now.
is it
I
eight and a
don't,
half?
I don't know yet. I'm going to look it up, but
It
sorry to
wouldn't
interrupt.
surprise me if it shifted heavily, because I feel like Miami is going to not get a lot of money on this game. Indiana is favored by what I think is they're trying to give respect to the Hurricanes. And I don't know if I mentioned on this show last week, but Indiana was only 3.5-point favorites. I adjusted that spread to 10.5 and put money on that. Of course, I ended up, even surpassed that a lot easily. So as soon as I saw the opening spread for the Miami game, I put money on that as well, just because I have gotten to the point. I used to be afraid to put money on Indiana football, but I think this is one of the most well-oiled machines that anybody's ever seen. You hear the comparisons to 2019 LSU, and I realize I'm rambling, so I'm going to wrap this up here in just a second and let you comment on some of the things I've been saying. But I'll bring up what Jamie Howie said real quick that I sent to you via text. He's put in our YouTube comments a few times. It's the Indiana Conda is what it is, exactly what this team is and does to every single one of their opponents.
Yeah, I mean, I talk so much about suffocation, and when you make a mistake, they just pounce on it. Unfortunately for the Ducks, they made their mistakes in their own 20 and made it easy to pounce. Um, but they just take the life out of you, and it feels like they've done that a majority of the games. But teams that are like Miami, that are really strong on both offensive and defensive line, that's where they like really take a lot of their pride in the way that they play. Indiana struggled a little bit. You talk about Iowa just being really good in their more front seven on defense, but then their offensive line, the Joe Moore Award winners, Miami's got a great O line, and Indiana really had a hard time with that. Now they found a way to win, as they have all year, but when the bracket was released, I think we talked about this off air. Miami's the team I wanted to see the least, just because of how physical they were up front on both sides. we're talking about Indiana, so does that make me nervous? Not really, but this is a really, really good team that Miami's bringing to this game, and have a ton of weapons all around and in their home stadium. Will it look like that? I don't know, but don't have the travel impact. They'll probably have a pretty normal schedule.
Yeah.
It if
It's
anybody
some,
could beat
here's what I
Indiana,
want to
it's
interrupt
them.
you real quick because I was thinking about this earlier. I don't want to forget this.
Yeah, go ahead.
For some reason, I feel like it's obviously a very good thing for them that they get to be in all of their facilities. It'd be a virtual, an unofficial home game for them. But it's almost like, can it be too normal for them in this type of environment? Like, will it be strange to them to be in that setting when you're playing in a game of this magnitude? Maybe I'm just over or reading way too much into it, but I think there's a chance no matter who would be hosting this game, it's got to be weird and feel a little out of place to be doing what they're doing in this situation.
Maybe. I thought about it from the complete opposite. I think Signetti talked about in his Zoom conference today. The worst thing you can do is make this game any bigger than any of the other games. Obviously, it is right. It's the national championship, but
Yeah.
in a situation like this, you're looking for any kind of normalcy you can in any of the situations. You're trying to make everything feel like you're preparing for the first home game or second home game of the year, probably closer to second home game, trying to just make it normal. And Miami's been there now 8 times, I think. They were 7-1 at home. It's going to be nice to be sleeping in your own bed and not having to go do all the crazy stuff, get on the plane, go practice at a weird site, carry all your pads all over the place. It's all just going to be right there. I would say it's a huge advantage to be in your own backyard for Miami.
We'll get more into Indiana versus Miami specifically in a little bit. But before we get too far into all that, I do want to backtrack to your experience being down in Atlanta. You were amongst the, I don't know, 80% versus 20% Indiana to Oregon fans down in Atlanta, as I heard Pat McAfee refer to it as during one of the pregame shows. What was it like being down there and just experiencing everything?
Yeah, I think it was probably closer to 95-5 ratio. I was in the Oregon section, which was about 2 sections, and they were still 60% Indiana fans. But 2 things. One, Oregon people in real life are the exact same as they are on Twitter. Very cool, very funny, complimentary, just really cool people. If we played them every game, that would stink because they're really good. And I think they just kind of the game got away from them, and that happens. But really, really cool fan base with really cool people, and awesome experience to be around that many Indiana fans. But when you came across an Oregon person, you knew that it was a friendly. They were just excited to be down there, just like Indiana people were. But I mean, how can you not talk about the Indiana showing up? Talk about a sleeping giant, waking a beast, whatever you want to say. I still get chills. Everybody talks about the pop from the D'Angelo Pons.
Oh yeah, I was going to get into that
interception.
next.
It was
So go
incredible.
right ahead.
Obviously, Pat McAfee said it was the loudest stadium he's ever heard. That was amazing, of course. But what is going to stick with me more than anything is at the end of the fight song, the IU echoing throughout the stadium. I can't even put into words how I don't know what the word is. It sent chills down your spine, and we got to hear it a lot, which was awesome. So you just kept hearing this over and over. It was deafening. When you get a little bit of momentum on your side and you've got however many people are in there, 95% of them are right there with you. I can't imagine what that feels like as a player and how much easier it makes things to go out there and want to be the guy they're cheering for, because it felt like even Pons was always going to be a guy, but even guys that you don't hear as much, they were coming down, playing physical. Daniel Ndukwe played unbelievable. Of course, he's prepared, and that's why he did that, but it's got to feel good knowing when you're going out there, it's not just you, it's 80,000 people at your back.
Do you think, and I know you've already gotten to the pop, the pick six, how things got rolling. There was a lot of mistakes. Some of them were more silly than others, I'll say, and I want to go ahead and get into the second one. and that was the fumble on like the 7-yard line, whatever it was, from Dante Moore. From afar and initially, before I realized what had happened as it was going on in real time, I just thought the ball slipped out of Dante Moore's hands, and on the replay you see it bumped up against whoever his running back was at the time. And I had made a joke. I said, "Oh, the hand of God just took that ball out of Dante Moore's hand. This is meant to be Indiana's ball. This is their night. This is their season." And of course, they show the replay, and that's not fully the case. But it was still fun to joke about that. Would you say a lot of that, or having a play like that amongst several others, is also due to just the sheer dominance of not only the team but really the environment that the IU fans had created during that game?
Yeah, that play was weird because I was in the end zone right behind where that happened, and I didn't know that it hit the running back until I was watching the highlights after the game. So I thought the same thing you did, that he just slipped out of his hand. Having injuries and next man up is not easy, especially at a position like running. Like, defensive line is one thing. Obviously, it's very important to get pressure. But when you're handling the ball and your responsibility is to be a step farther over, so you make sure that doesn't happen as the running back, just not having as many reps, it really impacts when the environment is what it is, and it feels like it has to feel like the fans are just standing on top of you. It's got to make it hard to concentrate. And when you don't have bank reps to go back on and rely on, it can impact you. Absolutely. I remember my first year, we went on the road for the first time, and it wasn't even that kind of environment. But when things are spiraling a little bit and you're in the chaos, you fall back on how many reps have you had and how many times have you done it. And they had a guy back there that hadn't done it enough times. And I mean, just how quickly Indiana's on the ball, how opportunistic doesn't even feel like the right word.
They're prepared. I know it's almost become cliche to say that they're prepared for anything, but it does seem like they're ready for every mistake that could possibly be made from the opponent's offense or defense, even special teams. I mean, they were coming right at the punter whenever the game was not even in question anymore to get that block punt late in the or midway through the fourth quarter, whenever it was. They're always ready to pounce, even when Indiana made mistakes. When Fernando Mendoza lost the ball on one of his big runs and Pat Coogan's just right there behind him ready to pounce on it. Those are things that I've never really seen any, there is luck involved with some of that.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a team be that ready consistently all the time, it seems like.
Yeah, it's chasing the ball, following the play. It's like boxing out in basketball. Like, if you forget to box out and the ball goes to the other side, nobody really notices. I'd be curious how many times Pat Coogan was running down the field when there was a run play or Mendoza made a break for it and he doesn't fumble, but he's there just in case. It's luck is preparation plus opportunity. If you don't put yourself in the right place for when it does happen, you're not going to be there. They just don't forget little things. And it's really incredible, which I'm sure you're going to get to it, that the way that they prepare and the way that they do, feels like every coach talks about doing the little things, having a standard, blah, 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 coach speak. There's just not many teams that take that coach speak and actually turn it into action. That coach speak is coach speak for a reason, because those are the things that work. And it's amazing what happens when a team actually receives that message and puts it into action, not just on Saturdays or not just on game days, but when they're cleaning their house, right? Vacuuming, as Kalon Black was talking about. The way you do something is the way you do everything. And these guys just seem to be on it in every way. And that's what you see on Saturday. It manifests itself in plays like the Pat Coogan play.
Yeah, there's so many things. I think one last thing I do want to mention before we move on to other aspects of what's at stake and what could be to come. I think one stat that people have been throwing out, they threw it out during the Rose Bowl just for that game in particular. Now they're combining that with this game and even looking back to different portions of the season. But Fernando Mendoza, he really doesn't throw a lot of pass attempts when it comes down to it, but still 8 touchdown passes versus 5 incompletions. Some people will throw that stat and say, one thing, one thing that we're going to get into in a little bit. But what is it that makes Mendoza so good? It seems like he's there. There was one particular play. Actually, there was two, and both of them were passes to Elijah Surratt. One of them was pretty early on, whenever Surratt was basically being completely boondoggled by the Oregon defender. I don't know what boondoggled means, but it seems appropriate in this situation. But Mendoza throws an absolute frozen rope at Surratt's chest, and he makes an incredible catch to hold on to it. He does the exact same thing on a touchdown pass whenever Elijah Surratt's running across the back of the end zone later on in the game. How is he able to just be that accurate all the time? Is it really just is Mendoza, do you think he's as meticulous as people really say he is, or he has as meticulous as he says he is?
Yeah, it's repetition with footwork and mechanics, and then a lot of that is just God-given ability. The one that I think of more than any, it was kind of not a nothing play, but it was like a 6-step out route. How much do I talk about that route being get your quarterback in rhythm? But to Charlie Becker, I think it was second down to the far side of the field. If you throw it 6 inches behind, it's broken up. If you throw it a foot behind, it's a pick. If you throw it 2 feet behind, it's probably a pick six. And it's right at the sideline. And he throws it just right on the money. And that seems like that's all that ever happens. It's I remember the throw to Omar Cooper that was in double coverage that he overthrew a little bit. I didn't think there was one that should have been pass interference. The one before that should not have been pass interference. It was just an overthrow. It was kind of our guy or nobody. But when that happens, you almost assume something like there has to be pass interference. There's no way he would have missed anybody. But now I'm going to ramble a little bit. That's another part of what makes him so incredible. It's the incompletions to touchdown ratio is incredible, but it's the interception ratio. I saw a stat going
Dude
back.
hasn't thrown a pick since the Purdue game, I don't believe. No, the Ohio State game.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in the red zone. I saw something going back to Cal. He hasn't thrown an interception in the red zone. And so much of that is putting the ball where it's your guy or nobody. It's ball security. It's not – we're not talking about fumbles or what. It's securing the ball to make sure that our guy or nobody has it. And he always misses outside away from defenders if he misses, or he puts it right on the money. It's very rarely the Dante Moore throw. It happened a couple times this year, but very rarely the Dante Moore throw where you just are late and you throw it inside and D'Angelo Pons can jump the route and you kind of stare it down. That's all that happens. That play's getting intercepted by everybody. I don't care how prepared Indiana was, and the coverage they were running, that ball gets intercepted 95% of the time. It's just a bad throw. And it just feels like Mendoza doesn't do that. He's just so careful with the ball, knock on wood. But that's what's really helped him excel. The way that he takes care of the ball, and when he decides he's going to throw it, there's no second guessing. He lets that thing go. Perfect case is the Charlie Becker throw for the touchdown. It's just a 1, 2, 3, let it fly, let your guy go get it. Just really, really impressive. And all he's done is got better.
Real quick, Becker has some of the most physical touchdown catches. That's really all I want to say about that. Every time he catches a ball, even if it's not a touchdown, it feels like every catch he gets is earned. And that's a compliment to him, because usually somebody's really being physical with him. And I'm not talking about fouling or, getting a penalty, that sort of thing. He just has to get the tough, deep balls. And that dude, he's Indiana's only receiver who's going to be returning next year, at least of the ones that are big playmakers right now.
Yeah, and, we'll see on Cooper. We'll see.
Do what? We'll see. That's true. It's not a given that everybody's going to go to the NFL.
Yeah,
but
he shouldn't.
Surratt for sure is gone.
Yeah, Cooper's the bomb. Go get your money, dude. I wish he would come back, but he is not for sure.
So I want to get into we've talked about the pick six a few times now.
Real quick, if you haven't seen this, the behind view of the Charlie Becker, just because we were talking about Omar Cooper, of the Charlie Becker touchdown, did you see Omar Cooper coming across the middle? It just looked like a go crosser, and Cooper breaks off his crossing route, looks to Mendoza, see he's launched it, and he turns to Charlie Becker, and before he even sees the ball in the air, he just puts one finger up like touchdown.
I've not seen that.
The ball didn't get to Becker for a second and a half after he put his finger up like, all right, touchdown, let's go celebrate. You got to find that. It is just the amount of confidence they all play, having each other, that they're all going to do their own job, and not try to be too big. It's just they're clinical. They're absolutely clinical.
So I mentioned that we've talked about the pick six a lot, and a lot of people online have been talking about the pick six, and apparently that amongst a few other things has made a few, we'll call them haters, I guess, even though that term's, overplayed, overused.
I know where you're going with this, John.
Oh, I know you do. It stirred up a lot of conversation on whether or not Indiana may or may not be cheating in some way, shape, or form. I've seen people throw out claims that Indiana has access to opponents' practice film by hacking into a software. They have the ability to find their opening drive scripts, and they reference how Indiana's been able to pick off teams 4 different times this season on play 1 or 2 of the entirety of the game. That's impressive for one thing, and I do understand why. Do what?
It's astonishing. The odds of that are low.
Yeah, it happened against UCLA. That was a pick six. Of course, Oregon was a pick six. Happened against Purdue. It was a horrible throw by Ryan Brown. Yeah. And for some reason, I'm blanking on the fourth. How come anytime anyone does a series of things, it has to be something the way the brain works. When you're listing things off and you get to the final one, you just forget what it is. It happens to everybody. Iowa was the other one because that wasn't a pick six. I'm glad you knew that off the top of your head. Yeah. My brain wasn't letting me remember it.
I, too, saw all of these allegations and saw all of the plays, and I have a very simple solution for what the problem is for these teams. Are you ready?
Give it to me.
It's pretty simple. The UCLA pick takes no preparation. Nico Imaliava underhand threw it to Aiden Fisher, 10 feet from him. The Ryan Brown throw on Purdue is scrambling to his right. Everything is flowing to the right, and he throws the ball 6 seconds late, maybe later. Like, not a split second. He stares at Buddy, puts his arm up, says, "Hey, Amari Farrell, I'm going to throw it." And then he waits another count to make sure he's in position, and then he throws it. That was going to be a pick all the time. Dante Moore, I just told you, stared him down, threw it way inside, and was late on an out route to the boundary with the best corner in college football. Probably going to intercept that. And then the Iowa was a broken play, too. And it was a tip ball.
That's true. That one was tipped.
Like, what are we talking about? He tips it up in the air. That's intercepted. This is Division I football. This is not the Pee Wee League. Of course they're going to be prepared. Of course they're going to be in right position. And this is tough for everyone to probably understand. Every team has scripted plays that they run pretty much every game. So the other team probably sees what your scripted plays are and is going to try to put themselves in position for those plays. I don't know what you want us to do. Stop trying. It's the best compliment. Indiana's gotten so much crap. Too old, transfer portal only.
The too old thing is stupid. Like, that's college football now.
I love it. And they're not even old. Oregon was as old. It's great. I love it. They're just so funny. All of it is a huge compliment to Indiana because we have broken the brains of the college football staying or blue blood, whatever you want to say, college football media. Their brains are absolutely melted. You can see it coming out of their ears. I take it as the best compliment ever. Bring it on. Because all they're doing, I think I said something stupid about, like, just mad they're playing for second. Enjoy your silver medals and shut up. You can't do what we're doing. We've proven that you can't do what we're doing 15 times in a row, and we're going to do it 16 times in a row on Monday.
Columnist Pat Forty, he wrote an article today, and I'm glad somebody of note finally just wrote something about this because it was driving me insane all this past weekend because I was letting it bother me.
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't have.
You shouldn't.
But in his article, it reads, so he apparently asked a coach that had played Indiana at some point this year. It's an anonymous coach. They didn't say who it was. But this was the response when Pat Forty had asked the coach on whether or not that the coach thought Indiana had been cheating. He says, "I think it's asinine. I think they're just really fucking good." Excuse me for the expletive. That's what it says. "I didn't see anything when they played us other than really good players who are really well coached. I didn't see their game against Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship, but I went back and watched the all 22, and it says game film, and they just whipped them up front. Those interior guys on the D-line get no credit, but they're really good, and the O-line is dominating. There's nothing suspicious about winning up front."
That's it.
And then there's 2 more quotes I want to read, and I'll let you respond. Mm-hmm. The coach also says, It would be very difficult to steal info from Catapult. That's the software where you could steal all the stuff we were talking about and not get caught. The same for the headsets. You might be able to tap a frequency for a home game, but in the CFP, highly unlikely. They are very good and a very good model of what can happen in today's world when a school invests in football and they have the right leadership. I guess first thing, who do you think that was? I have a guess, but I want to hear who you think it is. It's a coach that faced Indiana this year. No, it's an anonymous coach.
It sounds like something Dan Lanning would say because he's awesome, but he probably watched the Indiana game in the Big Ten championship, if I had to guess.
Yeah. My for some reason, and I think it's because he said he had the expletive in there. I think it's Brett Bielema for some reason. I don't know why I get the feeling it's Brett Bielema.
He saw it up close and personal, didn't he?
And I think that's what it is too. I think Pat Forty would have reached out and say, "Hey, you got beat. You got the doors blown off of you. Were you suspicious about how any of that was taking place?"
If anybody thinks there had to be some kind of cheating going on, it would be them. But that was another look. If you're an Indiana fan and you're on Twitter, one, probably stay off Twitter this week. I'll get into what my feelings about Miami, Indiana are, but not a lot of brain activity going on in South Florida. But just take all this stuff as a compliment, man. This is when people get uncomfortable and there's change and there's a significant changing of the guard that you can see coming and the freight train is on the tracks and it's moving and you don't have a choice. You can't get out of the way because you got to play these guys. Take it as a compliment. That's all it is. This is a bunch of people trying to come to terms with a Curt Cignetti crazy statement where the emerging superpower of college football, it's coming true. And they gotta figure out how to deal with that.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're not just worried. Excuse me. Most of the people making these comments, they're not worried about this national championship game. I mean, they are, but the bigger picture is they're worried about this being reality for the next 4 or 5 plus years.
Yeah, I saw most of my stuff comes from Twitter, but pretty prominent Ohio State Twitter account that gets a lot of engagement and is really knowledgeable. I don't know if he's got a podcast. I don't even know what his name is. I would plug him here so you guys could go check him out. Pretty knowledgeable. Big Ohio State fan, definitely a homer, but understands kind of what's happening. They got that commitment today from CJ Harris, Penn State, or AJ Harris, one of the two. Can't remember. Penn State corner, big time get. He said what's scary is the 2024, 2020, and 2025 Indiana Hoosiers are the least talented team they will have.
Oh, I think that was Mr. Ohio. Mr. Ohio, he's a good dude.
Yeah, he's very homer, loves the Buckeyes.
He is very homer. But he's one of the good guys, though, of Ohio State.
I would be exactly the same way he is about his team, especially when he might have a chance to be exactly like him because we're definitely going to just get better and better. It's the reality that a lot of these teams are coming to have to face. You're not, unfortunately, even though I was on the team, a lot of these programs in the Big Ten or whoever it was would see Indiana and just kind of whatever. We'll see you next week for the game that actually matters. And now they're probably going to have to write another L. And that hurts in today's college football world where everybody's playing for big money and college football playoff is what people really care about. Unfortunately, I do think some of the Bulls need to stay alive as long as possible. But when you have to write more L's, that means it's going to be harder for you to get to where you want to be. And it just doesn't feel like the train is stopping. But winning a game like this on Monday, I mean, we talked about Cignetti. What's really scary is him being able to pick, not being able to get every 5-star, get everybody in number 1 through 25, maybe not the number one player in the country, but if he doesn't get the number one player in the country, it's probably because he didn't want him and he didn't fit into the system that Cignetti is putting together and they don't need him. And that's when things get really scary. And we're starting to see some of that with this transfer portal. I think we'll really start to see a lot of that with high school recruiting, which is important. People on Twitter, they have a bunch of players on their team right now that contribute that Tom Allen recruited as high schoolers to Indiana. It just look out, man. It just feels like we should have weekly reminder videos that we just post into the ether. Hey guys, just a reminder, look out. Indiana is out there. and they're lurking for everything that you have.
It's so haunting the way that you
They
lay
do.
it out.
How can you not? They're terrifying. If I wasn't the biggest Indiana, if I didn't want to paint my entire house cream and crimson, and I was a fan of some other team, how could you not see them as the boogeyman, as the evil demon that's coming to take your soul? All they do is take souls.
They do.
That's it. And maybe Miami will beat them on Monday, and they've got the talent. They've got a bunch of physicality, bunch of NFL players, best tackle, I think, in college football, best freshman in college football. They have a ton of pieces, and maybe they'll beat them. But you can't get away from the boogeyman coming.
Real quick on that, though, while you mentioned like maybe Miami will win, a friend of mine, like really a colleague of mine at iHeart down in Louisville, posted this after, and he's rooting for Indiana, by the way, but he's been around a while, around the block a time or two, I'll say, and he had mentioned 1983 was one of the most dominant Nebraska football teams that ever existed. They were doing exactly what Indiana was doing by much larger margins in some cases. I think they hung 70 on an opponent, 80 on an opponent. No, Indiana hung 73 on Indiana State or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But that Nebraska team was unbeaten going into the national championship game. They did have a close game in their I don't know if it was a semifinal back then, whatever it was. I know they did championships way different back then. Their penultimate game was against Oklahoma. They won 28-21. And then what was the final game, the championship game against the then unknown Miami Hurricanes.
Howard Schnellenberger's
Miami Hurricanes.
The state of Miami.
Did what nobody, kind of like right now, was predicting, and they upended one of the most dominant teams in college football history that ended up not winning a title. Mm-hmm. And people are, of course, because it's Miami, once again, it's kind of the resurgence of Miami. They're using the exact same comparison with this Indiana football team in relation to the 83 Nebraska team.
Yeah, and there are a lot of parallels. Obviously, Miami didn't have the history of the 80s and the early 2000s back then, but Cristobal has done a really good job of keeping the South Florida kids at Miami. A lot of that team is South Florida, state of Miami, where Schnellenberger drew the line. I don't know if you've ever seen that video.
I'm not.
Grew up a big Miami fan. So he's on TV, and he says, the University of Miami, we're going to own the state of Miami. And he's got a Florida map, and he just draws a straight line across. And he says, all the players south of here are going to be Hurricanes. And that was their whole recruiting model. And they won in 85, 83, 85, 87. Or no, 83, 87, 89, I think. Now I'm totally blanking.
Schnellenberger, honestly,
93 and 2000
with some of his quotables. Of course, he goes to the University of Louisville years later and says, the University of Louisville is on a collision course with the national championship. The only variable is time. And, of course, ended up not happening, but it's still a very fun thing to remember of him saying.
Schnellenberger has one of my all-time favorite recruiting stories. He was famous for this pipe. He would always smoke this pipe. And for the good ones, he would leave when they had in-home visits. He would leave his pipe at their house, so he had a reason to go back and see him. It was just, and that was in a time when all kinds of stuff was going on, and all over the 80s were. You think NIL is crazy? Back then, there was absolutely no rules. I mean, Miami is. We talked about Iowa having a true identity, and Miami is that same way. They play extremely physical. They're so fast. Their defense is probably the most improved side of the ball of any team in college football. When you talk about Cam Ward last year, could score at will, one of the most electrifying players I've ever watched. And then they would, similar to the way we did when I was in school, give up a touchdown in 2 minutes on some busted coverage. They don't do that. They're built on defense, and they're built up front running the ball. Carson Beck has managed the game. When he hasn't, they've lost. But I would guess you're probably going to get a serious effort to establish a run game early. Mark Fletcher is a big, powerful, kind of bruising back that in the college football playoff has been one of the best players in the whole playoff. Just a very motivated team playing at home. And this is a chance for them. They're trying to make that state of Miami again. You got a basically home game, a bunch of kids that you're trying to recruit. Cristobal earlier this year after they beat Florida State, famous, he gets interviewed after the game, and he talks about if you're a good player in Florida, you come to Miami, state champs. Like that, they take a ton of pride in the state of Florida, putting on the best possible show that they can for those kids down there. And it's had a serious resurgence. All those kids were going to Georgia, Florida, Texas, all these other places, LSU. And the pride that Miami being so good has brought back in a lot of these kids. It's a powerful movement that Cristobal is going on, and you added a national championship to that belt. That's another program. Look out, because they're only getting better. I'm guessing this is probably a scenario that 8-year-old me was not ready for, because Indiana and Miami are. It feels like there's some teams that are trending. It feels like Indiana and Miami are just on this collision course for years to come.
Well, let's dive right into that then, because this is something that we joked about it last year too, the possibility of whether or not Indiana.
It was a joke last year.
It was a joke, and it was kind of a joke this year for a while. I mean, Miami barely got in. It was either them or Notre Dame or Alabama, I guess. It was kind of those three, and Alabama ended up getting in, and so did Miami. And they had to defeat Texas A&M on the road. They had to defeat Ohio State coming off a loss against Indiana in the Cotton Bowl. They did both of those things, and then they take down an Ole Miss team that was kind of the darling of the playoff. They didn't have Lane Kiffin, and that was that was without a doubt the best game. Like, if you're just watching for the competitive nature of the teams back and forth, Miami Ole Miss was the best game so far of this playoff. And so they get all the way to the national championship now. They're underdogs. Nobody's giving them a chance. Nobody's giving them a chance really in any game they played in, except maybe the Ole Miss game. I think people thought that was going to be pretty competitive from the get-go. Against the new juggernaut, the new blood, whatever you want to call them, Indiana Hoosiers, with Curt Cignetti going for their first national title. It's two incredible storylines, but we have a personal storyline here that we kind of teased last week, and that is your relationship with the Miami Hurricanes. You grew up watching them. I'll let you explain whatever it is you want to talk about, but what is it? First of all, you would have never predicted this ever in your life. Either one of these teams playing for a national championship. I'm sure you could have seen Miami eventually doing it again at some point, but Indiana doing it for one thing is incredible, and then doing it against your former favorite team growing up, that is a whole nother thing. So, giving the floor back to you, just explain to everyone listening what this means from your perspective. And I'm sure people are because I'm very curious what goes through your mind when you're thinking about how things might play out in this game.
Yeah. So the amount of texts that I got that said something like this, unreal, crazy. The first time Indiana makes it, they play your favorite team growing up. I probably got 40 texts like that. I don't know how deep I've gone into it. I grew up a Miami fan. My dad is from Miami, went to Christopher Columbus High School, Adelante, where the Mendoza brothers went, where Mario Cristobal went, Alonzo Highsmith. They've had a zillion unbelievable football players that went to Christopher Columbus. So he grew up a huge Hurricanes fan. His brother moved to Indiana because of the basketball team. He loved Indiana basketball, went to school at IU. My dad didn't go to IU, but went to law school there, lived in Indiana my whole life. So I was a football guy. You start going to some IU football games. The one I remember the most, 2007, we kicked field goal to beat Purdue, Austin Starr. I was at the game. This is like my first real in the stadium memory. I don't even know what I was thinking, but we were sitting right at the front, and I jumped over the railing and watched the kick go through the uprights from the sideline. So, like, imagine all the players. I was peeking my head as a 14-year-old through the players, watching the ball go through the uprights from the sideline, storm the field with them. That was it. Like, I had already watched Indiana, been to a bunch of games with Antoine Randall playing. That was Kellen Lewis. They had an unbelievable talent. Just couldn't. Miami and Indiana didn't play the same game to me. They weren't playing. Like that matchup would never happen. Miami was just Miami, and Indiana was awesome when they won. So to answer your point, no, this is something that I didn't think was ever possible. Um, I when we talked about it 2 years ago, or last year, not 2 years ago, last year. Don't take this the wrong way, people listening, but it just had never even occurred to me. So I needed some time to process that this was a possibility. I wasn't sure what my heart would tell me. I knew, but I wasn't sure just because I watched the Miami games like I'm literally 8 years old. My room as a kid was painted either red and white or green, white, and orange. I had an orange ceiling for like 3 years as a kid. That's the way I watched the games. And I've been a Miami fan as long as I've been anything, and I still watch every second of Miami. When I was at Indiana games this year, sometimes they played at the same time, and if it was, I can't remember. They played at the same time in Illinois, and I didn't watch any of Miami. But like, if the Indiana game got out of hand, I had Miami up on my phone and I was watching. Like I'm invested as a Miami fan. I am. I can't deny it. I'm not denying it. So when I saw the bracket get released this year, I called my dad, and we didn't even consider, like, we've watched Miami all year, as I mentioned. There's no way. They get stupid penalties, they throw the ball to the other team, they do all kinds of stupid stuff. It feels like Indiana is just a clinical machine where they're just going to smush you. Miami was chaos, and chaos bites you a lot of the time. That's the way they've been for 23 years, since 2022 when they got absolutely robbed by Ohio State on a Chris Gamble drop in the end zone, but we're not going to talk about that. Miami's just been chaos. And so when you see them on the other side of the bracket, we joke about it like, oh, yeah, wouldn't that be funny? And then they beat Texas A&M, and you're like, okay, well, I don't really like this. Then they smush Ohio State, and now you're having this serious conflicting battle. Like, do I want Miami to play for the national championship? Of course. But I'm watching Miami like, I don't want to play Miami. They're good, really good. And you knew Indiana was really good. So I'm not like worried about it from that perspective. But of all the teams, they're probably the team you want to play the least if you're an Indiana fan on that side of the bracket, I would imagine. So it's been an absolute roller coaster. To answer who I'm cheering for, I could have been in Phoenix, and I was in Atlanta. I could have been to some Miami games. There was one in Virginia Tech that we were planning on going to, but Indiana had a home game. I think it was like Michigan State or something, and I was in Bloomington. I'm a ride or die Hoosier, and
real quick, didn't you also went to a camp in Miami too, right? When you were thinking about where you would go?
I did. That was a big day for young Mitchell. Okay. I got invited. Basically, they were just like, give us some money and you can come to a camp. That was the extent of it. But when I got there, it was the best football I've literally ever played, even up until my senior year. They had all of us in different jerseys, offense in white, defensive in green, and then the guys they were actually recruiting were in orange.
The guys they were actually recruiting.
Yeah, I was in white. But we start doing one-on-ones, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm cooking these kids. Like, doesn't matter. They're all in green. It's not the kids they're recruiting, but like a blender. And you start hearing some rumblings from like the position coach. Who is this? Where's he from? Who is this guy? So then they start throwing out some of the orange shirt kids, and I'm still dealing. I'm doing really well. I remember there was a kid that was down to his final two was Vanderbilt. He's a 5-star. Vanderbilt in Miami. He's DB. Throw him out there, and I go to work on this kid. It was just a little out and up. Absolutely go to work. So Al Golden, the head coach at the time, comes over there and starts watching. And I run like 3 more. He never says a word to me or anything, but he's watching. I'm feeling really good. I'm thinking I'm about to run out of smoke. I'm going to the University of Miami. Then the last thing they do, it was called the fastest man in camp. And they lined us up on one sideline. And it's just a race to the other side. And they're going to cut half, find out who the fastest man in camp is. And the 2 kids next to me untied their shoes before they said go. And those 2 kids with no shoes tied were on the other sideline before I even made it to the far hash. and that was the last I ever heard from Miami. These kids beat me so bad. That was my first introduction to real speed. Yeah, that was about all she wrote for my hopes and dreams of going to be a
Man, so
Hurricane.
you do well the entire camp, and all because you got your ass beat in a race. That was
Oh, it
it
was
for
bad
you.
enough. It was
Okay.
I would have not talked to me either. It was bad. I gave it my all, man. I was running as hard as I could, and these kids
Oh,
just smoked me, and I had no problem with it. I'm like, as a Miami fan, I don't want you to recruit me either. Go get those kids. So it was awesome, awesome day being on Green Tree. Like that's a really cool place. Miami is an awesome program, but it all changed, man. The second that I got to Indiana and I saw what college football was and the chance that I was given by some of the people there and I mean, I was in Atlanta, probably saw 60 guys that I played with. I had my wife there. They don't know her at all, really. And just how welcoming and great people. Indiana is the best place in the world. And I can't imagine going anywhere else. I wouldn't have traded that for anything. And I think that among many reasons, that's the reason that I'll be wearing cream and crimson at the game on Saturday. And it just is, it's the coolest story ever. It's 8-year-old Mitchell would have never believed it. Um, Now, there's obviously we can talk about Miami had 23 freaking years to do this, and then they choose the one
they
year that
choose now.
Indiana's the best team, and now they're going to go lose to my now favorite team. That's crazy. But yeah, it's been a long journey, and I know most people are probably going to be like, "What the heck? He's a Miami fan, blah blah blah," and I can't help it. I wish it wasn't true too. But
Everyone has their first love, but that's not always who you marry.
yeah, that's exactly right. I'm married to Indiana forever.
There you go.
They have my whole heart, my whole mind. It's all I think about. I've watched the replay of the game. I watched the McAfee version. I watched the full version. I've watched highlights. I watched all the interviews. I've annoyed everyone in my circle relentlessly with Indiana stuff. But it'll be fun no matter what on Monday. If Miami wins, I will not be happy. There will be no like, well, at least Miami won. I'm full.
It'll be
bore
like, wow,
Indiana.
Miami, you're choosing to do this now against this team.
Every
That
time
sort
I
of
see
reaction.
if Miami does win, every time I'm watching a Miami game and they got that 2020 whatever, I think it'll be 2025 because that's the way they do it. It's
Yeah, they
2025.
count for football. They count it for the previous
So
calendar year.
when they put that up in the stadium, that'll kill me inside every time. So I want to hang that thing up in Bloomington. That's the only thing that I care about. The only thing I want going forward. Sorry for the long rambling.
No, not at all. I told you before
to-
we started this is going to be long, and we're not done yet. As long as you still have some more time, I want to ask you two more things.
I'm
and
here.
It may take us in a couple different directions. The first one's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Who wins? How do they get it done?
Yeah. Indiana wins, and I think by 10 plus, maybe 2 touchdowns. And the reason that they don't is they're clinical. They don't have stupid penalties. They don't give the ball to the other team. Miami will have some licks. They'll make some plays. They'll score, I'm sure. But they'll just discipline you to death, just like they have everybody else. So I would guess somewhere in the 31-17, 34-20 range, because I think Miami is explosive enough. They've got guys all over the field, and I think Carson Beck's playing great, but I just think they're going to have a tough time stopping Indiana's really just balance doesn't seem like it's a big enough word for what they are. All-time discipline. I just think it's too much. Miami's going to have some penalties and get them behind the sticks.
Another thing, too, I want to say something about Carson
schedule.
Beck.
Yeah.
Carson Beck's really good, and he's been very clutch, especially in this playoff.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the throws I see him make, especially, I feel like it was against Ole Miss. I feel like he's throwing lollipops. Like they're just high arch. They hang up there forever. And I'm sitting there thinking, if Indiana's on the defense here, they're eating that up. Like he's probably throwing multiple interceptions, throwing balls like that deep. Because if they're put in positions where they have to throw like that, they're in trouble.
Well, he's thrown it like that all year, and he got twice with it, but they've also won every other game. So he doesn't have the same pop on like a level 2 shot, the back shoulders at 20 yards like Mendoza has, the crossers that are just, your word, frozen rope, right? It doesn't feel like Carson Beck has that, but he's got a ton of athletes on the outside. CJ Daniels, Keelan Marion are just really athletic. And there's a certain point where you just say, I trust my guy to go get it. And I think Carson Beck does that about as much as anyone, where it's just said, my guy's better than your guy. I got one-on-one. Let me throw this up. But Indiana's is disciplined and will bait you into things like that. Definitely. I mean, Carson Beck turnovers, if he turns the ball over,
it's
probably
over.
even once.
If it's remote, if he Dante Moore's this game, it's over.
Indiana will win by
50. You can't spot Indiana. You can maybe make one mistake where you give up a touchdown, but if you do it twice like Oregon did, you're digging your own grave.
Yeah, if they have turnovers inside their own 20 or a pick six, I think the game's over. Maybe not. Maybe I'm crazy, but it just doesn't feel like you can gift Indiana anything. I'm thinking more of an interception on their side of the 50, like our own defensive own side of the 50, and we still got to put a drive together. Maybe you get away with one, but I mean, if you're going to have 10 penalties, you're dead. You turn the ball over a couple times, you're dead. Indiana just they punish that. They just punish you relentlessly, and both teams have to play an A game to win. But it feels like if either team plays a B game, they're in trouble. Indiana's included in that. If you make some uncharacteristic mistakes, Miami's explosive enough that they can cause some serious damage.
When would you say, if at any point this season, that Indiana's played a B game? Because I think I've got two examples that come to mind. Well, maybe three, and I'll go from most recent to oldest. Most recent, Penn State. That was definitely a B game.
A full B game? None. They've had B moments. Penn State played A+. And I thought Indiana was in the A-. Penn State just leaned on us. That was the only team that really ran the ball really effectively when they needed to. Not the whole game, but I thought their quarterback played phenomenal. They took what the defense gave them. They didn't get crazy and feel like they had to score 100 points at once. Because you think about Indiana got an interception that game where it just felt like, all right, time to turn it up. Let's crunch them. And it was the only time that we didn't do that. And I give more credit to Penn State than take away credit from Indiana in that game. They played inspired. Their quarterback played phenomenal. Their running backs were running. Offensive line was making holes in places that teams have not been able to gash Indiana like that. And Penn State did that. And Mendoza made a bad throw. They intercepted, and they took advantage of every opportunity, but they still didn't win, which is crazy. Iowa's a little closer. I know it's Iowa's one.
Iowa's the other one, and that's just because there were moments where Iowa could have put us away, put Indiana away, I'll say, and they didn't.
A bunch. Iowa's tough, though, because they really condensed the game. Every possession
playing Iowa's not – it's kind of like when you said Indiana's different. It's like another league of football. Playing Iowa's not normal.
No, I don't know how many drives Indiana got in this last game. Probably somewhere 10 to 12-ish. Indiana probably got 7 or 8 possessions against Iowa, if I had to guess. They milk the clock. They get you 2nd and 7, 3rd and 5, 4th and 2. Go for it, get it. It's a slow pace of game. So everything, it was the only time all year that it felt like Indiana was kind of pressing. Mendoza, receivers, it just felt like we were really squeezing the sand and letting some of the sand get out. And when they threw the pick, I think it was 13 all. They throw a pick with 3 minutes left. It feels like the game's dead because Iowa's just going to milk it, and then they miss that field goal, and then you're dead. And that's what Indiana does. You make a mistake, we kill you. And Iowa didn't make any mistakes. It felt like, I guess they threw the pick early.
They did, yeah.
They threw a pick early.
They were clean after that.
Yeah, there's a recipe to beat Indiana. It's just really hard to replicate.
Yes.
Really hard. And no one's been able to actually complete the recipe. They're always missing 1 or 2 ingredients, and it still comes out flat. There's ways that you can get the Hoosiers. I just don't know how you do it the whole game.
Yeah, and not make mistakes.
Right.
That's the thing. For Miami to win, they have to play perfect. Just about. They can. I hate to say perfect. You can't. No one plays an absolute perfect game. Yeah. They have to play likely their best game of the season and they have to make Indiana do things that they've not done all season.
Yeah, but Indiana has to do the same. That it's the national championship. If you're not coming expecting to have to play your A-plus game to win the game, it's the second best team or first best team, however you want to look at it,
Yeah.
in the country that you're playing. This is going to be the best team you've played. So you can kind of throw like what you've done against everybody else out the window. You have to execute at a level that I can't even comprehend. I didn't win 15 games in a row. Execute at that level over and over and over again for 60 minutes. I mean, you saw against Oregon, they're smashing Oregon, thank goodness, but one contain gets broke and the running back slips inside, you miss a tackle, and then it's a 70-yard run. There's so much explosiveness on both sides of the ball for all these teams. You have to find a way to just maintain focus. And fortunately for Indiana fans, Indiana's done that better than everybody all season. But they're going to need their best game to win. Do I think we'll get that? Yes, I think we'll win and cover easily, but it's going to be a challenge.
I had mentioned the last game. It's really, I think, the only real example where Indiana played a B, maybe even a C game, and it was against Old Dominion. They gave up 2 75-plus yard runs from their quarterback, one on the opening play of the game, and they looked lackluster on defense at times. They couldn't punch the ball in the end zone, and there were people at the beginning of the season this year, Indiana fans primarily that I'm referring to, that were like, okay, last year was a fluke. Like, this is the same old Indiana.
Well, I did that live show the day before the Kennesaw State game, and there was an open Q&A at the end of it, and basically every question was just like that. Like, well, we can't score on the 2-yard line. We give up a million long runs. How are you going to sit here and tell me that we're improved, that last year's defense didn't do stuff like that? And it was almost – we even talked about it like you're establishing physicality, you're doing all this, but the game was what the game was. They absolutely didn't feel the way they were supposed to. Mendoza's admitted he was pressing, trying to be a Superman. That's death's trap. If you go out there and try to be Superman, especially at quarterback, you're going to get burned. Carson Beck tried to be Superman against Louisville, throws 4 picks. They lose a game they should have never lost, ever. Same thing can happen. And unfortunately for Indiana, that feels like a long time ago. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. That was probably the worst Indiana played all year. But not probably.
Which is great. That's what you want it to be. You want game one to be the worst that you played all year.
Yeah. That was tough.
It's so weird looking back. It's funny too. That's the only time Indiana dropped in the rankings this year because they were preseason 19 or whatever. I think they went 21. To 24, and then it's
24.
Yeah, it's all full steam ahead at that point. Very weird looking back. I'm sure Colton Joseph, who was the quarterback.
Good.
Colton Joseph, that quarterback. Fun fact, by the way. He's going to be playing for Wisconsin next year.
I know.
He transferred to Wisconsin. I don't think Indiana plays the Badgers, but if they do somehow meet, Big Ten championship, whatever it might be, I don't think Wisconsin's going to be that good. But it would be very interesting to see Colton Joseph go up against Indiana once again he's the only guy who really burned Indiana at any point this year, I feel like.
My guess is if I'm Colton Joseph, I'm thankful that we're not playing Indiana when I'm at Wisconsin because that means they're in midseason form, and I'm good on that.
That's Cowboy Colt, by the way, as I remember them referring to him as.
Cowboy Colt, good luck in Madison. I'm happy you don't have to play an in-form Indiana Hoosier team just for your own safety.
All right, well, one more, last thing, and I cannot believe this is one segment of this show. It's going to be pretty much the entirety of the show, regardless.
It's the national championship, John.
I cannot believe I've been doing this show for 2 years. I've been doing a variation of the show since I think it's 2022, maybe 23. I don't know.
I was living when we were doing a different show. I was living in my buddy's apartment in Charleston, so it's at least 2021.
Man, I can't believe that's 5 years. And not once did I ever imagine that I would be sitting here.
We were begging for some fight, John.
Yeah, we were begging for man. We should just have our own In Touch with Indiana Sports documentary of how miserable we were.
We used to do predictions, and I predicted Indiana to get a shutout, but somehow score -4 points. Indiana was going to lose 0 to -4. I think was a real prediction.
And here we are. Indiana has a chance to do something. We're getting full circle here before I get to our final little topic or whatever you want to call it, question. They have a chance to do something that we never thought possible. So if they do that, if Indiana It doesn't matter at this point of anything. You're in the national championship game. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. We know it's Miami. It doesn't matter how you beat them. You just have to beat them. So if Indiana beats them, what is the overall? It may seem obvious to some people like what the repercussions would be, but I just want to hear, I guess, someone like you say it out loud from your perspective. What would this win do for Indiana football, Indiana athletics, just the future? Because, I mean, we've talked before, football is what drives the train everywhere. And there's not a single Indiana person, fan, outsider that ever thought that this program would be on the cusp of doing this. And winning a championship does so many things for you financially, marketing wise. It may give Indiana a chance to do, like create new facilities. Like it's the domino effect of winning something like this is not really something anybody's ever had to think about until now. So again, back over to you. What would this championship do for all of that? And then even you can just for the fans too. Like what do you think the reaction would be like after the game?
Yeah, I was thinking more from a fan perspective, and I'll probably give an answer that
Give me
um,
both. I should have
yeah,
made it more fan oriented because I do want to know that too, but my
yeah.
brain was going in the other direction.
No, I like it. I mean, for football, I mean the expansion of the stadium, new facilities, renovating Mellon Camp, game day festivities go up tenfold. The excitement level around the stadium for games, recruiting, everything changes. It everything is built up to this, but you accomplish a national championship, everything changes. Um, from a football perspective, you actually do get your pick. Your recruiting pitch isn't look what we've done. You just instead of putting the Heisman Trophy, which is incredible, and on a quarterback's desk, or the Big Ten championship on some receiver's desk when they're trying to recruit them, you just pull out the CFP trophy and say, "Do you want one of these? You can have one if you come here." Um, I think more about the fans with this, and this is going to be a little more downer than I think people would expect me to be. Obviously, it'd be elation, and I saw it in Atlanta, just the pure joy that Indiana fans have, and my hope would be that it stays that way. It stays pure joy because interacting with so many of these fan bases that have been there, done that, they've forgotten how fun it is. And when you lose, Indiana's going to lose again at some point. Maybe they don't. But like not forgetting how hard it is to win. I think that's the scariest part about what Signetti's done is he's made it look so easy. If he asked me to jump off a cliff, I would do it. That's like I've forgotten how hard it is to every single day get better and better and how much time and effort it takes to create a team like this. And so many of these fan bases have forgotten that and forgotten how much these kids care about winning and how it used to be. I mean, you can look at Indiana basketball. It was the strangest. I had just watched Indiana win the Peach Bowl by a zillion points on Friday night. And when I got home, I listened to the basketball game at noon. And you get to a gas station on your way driving back, and you're looking through Indiana basketball Twitter, and it's like they've lost touch with reality. Like how hard it is to win games and put a product on the floor that's exciting to watch, and how hard it is to make a football team move the way that this team does. I would just hope this has been the most fun time to be a fan of anything in my entire life. And a huge part of that is Twitter, interacting with people on game day. It's just it's positive, good people caring so much about one thing. I would hope that the caring doesn't turn into like over the top, unnecessary, fire the coach immediately. I don't think we would get that with Signetti, but maybe. Like it just I want to, and I don't, it's probably not realistic, but if we could just like bottle up what Indiana fandom is right now and never really forget where we're coming from and how fun it is to have something that unites you in this way, that's whether they win or not. That's what I hope for the most is keeping this the way that's what makes us different. How excited. That's the reason we have a 95-5 stadium for the Peach Bowl is because people are having so much fun. And I would just hope that that continues and there isn't just because the expectations get raised, which they absolutely do and they absolutely should. This is what the expectations are now. But that we stay just the way that we are, positive and so excited that we're beside ourselves that this is happening.
Yeah, I think one thing I don't want to say I've struggled with it, but there's been times during the season where I'm like, am I really soaking this in? Like, have I been able to put it in? It's probably really hard to do for a lot of people. Have I been able to put into perspective the rarity of something like this and truly enjoy it? I think I have for the most part. At the same time, whenever I get behind this microphone, whenever I'm at my day job behind a microphone as well, there's a part of my brain that always tries to go into objectivity mode where I try to analyze things and remove emotion from it. And I think it's in part, it's one of the saddest things about being in broadcasting. They train you to be kind of this robot that doesn't have emotion toward things. And I share my opinions on stuff, and I'm not afraid to say that I'm a fan. It's not anything like that, but it's the analytical side versus the emotional side. I think Indiana fans this upcoming Monday, I hope everyone is able, like you just said, to enjoy the game, whether you're watching it at home by yourself, whether you're going to go to a watch party like I am with my family, whether you're going to be at the game, whether you're going to be at a sports bar. If there's going to be so many people adjusting their regular day-to-day, and I know it's a holiday. It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day as well, so people will be off work. And off school as well. There's going to be so many people where the world is just going to stop for whether it's that whole day or just later that evening whenever you get closer to kickoff and things. Like, everyone will be focused, at least all Indiana fans. Everything will revolve around Indiana football for a 24-hour period of time, give or take, depending on your situation. And I hope, just like you, that everyone's able to just enjoy it. I've already taken off the day after. I'm going to work because my schedule is really weird. I work early mornings. You know that. I'm off by noon. I don't need to take off Monday. We have the option to be on or off that day. But I'm taking the option from that. I'm taking off that Tuesday. Because win or lose, that's my recovery from all of what's going to happen on Monday night. I'm going to do my very best to make it, to just, like I said, soak it, like we both said, soak it all in, because as much as we love to talk about that maybe this is going to be the norm, maybe Indiana is always going to be competing for titles under Cignetti, I think what we all need to realize is that winning a title, no matter how good your coach is not as easy as Cignetti's making it look right now. And he still hasn't done it. He still has to play the game on Monday. But I think the sheer dominance has made it easy for everyone, myself included, to just assume that it's okay, they're going to go take care of business. And maybe they'll do that this time. But that doesn't mean they're going to do it next year or the year after or even the year after that.
Think about the basketball team.
This may be the only time. How many people in 1987 thought that was going to be the last basketball national championship that they would see until who knows when?
And I guarantee you
I bet no Indiana basketball fans were thinking that.
None. Number one teams, best players, two of the top 3 draft picks. It's just hard to win. And that's what I hope that people don't lose sight of. Just to your point, man, it's so hard to win. It's so hard. And what we're witnessing is, the greatest story of my lifetime. And I don't want it to ever end. The way that we're cooking in the portal and our recruiting classes are just going to get better and better. But finding the right gel, finding the right mold, finding a quarterback that can lead the way Mendoza leads and just get better and better. And it just doesn't happen. It didn't happen there's 126 teams. It didn't happen for 124 of them this year. Just didn't. All the money these teams have, it just didn't. enjoy it, Indiana fans. Who knows? I think it's one of many. Could be the last one. Indiana by a million, man.
Mitchell, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you along for this ride. Really, for again, like you said, for 5 years, and this is where it's led us to right now.
Yep.
And I don't know, we're gonna have to figure it. Obviously, next week's going to be a different. We'll have to talk about this off the air, but it's going to be a different release schedule. Of course, we're not going to record on Monday. The game's played on Monday, so we might do a day behind release, something like that.
I'm going to send you some pictures.
Oh yeah, I look forward to seeing what you're seeing and hearing about what your experience is like down there. But we'll probably win or lose. I don't know how quickly you'll get back to Bloomington, but we'll do our best to have reaction from the championship game by Wednesday of next week. So we'll get to that point whenever it's time to cross that bridge. So Mitchell, enjoy the solo adventure that you're about to go on. Enjoy all that comes with it, the travel there, hopefully it's a safe flight, drive, whatever it is you're doing to get down there. Hopefully it's probably gonna be nice and warm. Enjoy the temperate conditions down in Miami. You're gonna go do some golf. What a great way just to kind of get relaxed before the national championship game.
Yeah, if anybody's going to be down there and you're listening to this, please hit me up. We had a meetup with I've been on. I don't know if everybody knows what Crimson Cast is. I told you about this podcast. There was a big. It was by Home Field Apparel, big meetup down in Atlanta. There was hundreds of Indiana fans there. I think we're doing something similar. So I just want to see everybody, getting to talk to people from all walks of life. I'll leave you with this story because this is kind of the kind of interaction that I'm hoping for. So I was at this meetup, hundreds of IU fans. It's the only time that I've ever had to wait to the men's bathroom. It's a total dude fest. It was awesome. So I was standing in line waiting for the bathroom, and some guy, just an Indiana fan, candy stripe pants, you name it, he had it. This guy's been a fan forever. And he starts talking, asking me about the run, asking me if I went to school there, asking me when I graduated. And when I told him what years I was there, he said, "Oh, so you had some really good teams. You had like Cody Zeller and Yogi Ferrell and stuff like that." And I'm like, "Well, I was more of a football fan, but yeah, I mean, some good teams." And he said, "Oh, so you had like Nate Sudfeld and Simi Cobbs and Mitchell Paige?" I was like, "Yeah, we had them, dude. They were awesome. I loved watching them." And so, if you're out there and you're listening to this, that was me that you said that to. I didn't tell you it was me at the time, but
that's awesome, though. Was that? I mean, what was that weird for you to hear that in that moment? No, okay.
No, I've had that. I think I've told you about all the experiences I've had talking crap about myself to people that didn't know it was me. Yeah, it wasn't new. It's happened a lot, but it didn't bother me. Like it was a bunch of people that were so excited to be there. They're rattling off names from teams far gone. That's the kind of interactions I want to have. So if you'll be in Miami, I will be down there.
Saw you ran into Jennifer. I'm sure I know she used to be an avid listener. I hope you're still a listener, Jennifer.
Yeah, I hope you are too. Saw her. She stood with us for a little bit. Had a great to see her. She's the ultimate Hoosier. Just a blast down there. So if you're coming, hit me up on Twitter. I'm very active on there, as I've mentioned, and I will definitely respond to you and let me know what you guys will be. I'd love to see everybody.
Safe travels. Next time you and I talk on this show, we'll know whether or not the Indiana Hoosiers are national champions. It has been an absolute pleasure having Mitchell Paige on for all those years. I know we just talked about how long we've been doing these shows in some way, shape, or form for a long time now. And I don't think either one of us ever thought we'd be talking about a national championship game for Indiana football. And here we are. This is reality. And I don't know when it'll set in for me. It may never set in. I think that's kind of how I've been feeling throughout the season. Like, when is it really going to hit me that this is what's happening right now? Hopefully it happens on Monday at some point, either before or during the game. But we do have one more segment for you today here as we prepare for this national championship game. We're going to welcome in Derrick Jackson, a DB from the Bill Mallory era of Indiana football. Saw a lot of success And that was the gold standard of Indiana football before Kurt Cignetti came around. So pleasure to get his experience, his perspective, and kind of his thoughts on what a ride it's been for Indiana football as somebody who has seen the ups and downs, lived the ups and downs. And we'll go ahead and bring him on right now and get his thoughts on this Hoosier football team. Joining me once again here on In Touch with Indiana Sports, it is none other than former Indiana Hoosier DB Derrick Jackson. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thanks, John. It's a pleasure to be here, man.
I am sure there are so many of us like you and I, DJ. Of course, you're a very special case being a former player, especially a former player who he's been around a long time, but there are so many Indiana fans that are speechless. They're excited. There's so many emotions. Some people don't even really know what their emotions are because Indiana Hoosiers football is playing for a national championship next Monday on Martin Luther King Jr. Day against the Miami Hurricanes. And I guess I'll just give you the floor real quick. What does this mean to you as somebody who played back in the 1980s for Bill Mallory? Did you ever think this was possible for Indiana football? And just how do you feel about everything that comes with playing for a national championship?
John, I'm going to back you up just a second. When you first started talking, you said two words in the same sentence. You said Indiana football and national championship. So I'm going to say that one more time for the people who don't believe or who didn't think it was possible.
Need to
of
pinch
course, John,
themselves,
you and I have
right?
we've been having this conversation for a couple of years, and I told you about the doorstep of dominance, and we are past that. And see, when I said dominance, I really meant that. And now we're 15-0. Okay,
that's right. 15-0. Before you even play this game, by the way, that's already tied for the best, at least in the FBS college football playoff, BCS era, that sort of thing. That's already the best record there's ever been. They have a chance to be 16-0, which no team has ever done in this era of college football.
Right. You're exactly right about that. The unique thing about that, because see, you have to keep up with this because every week that you see those darn Indiana football Hoosiers and Coach Kurt Cignetti on national TV, they're setting a record. They are setting a precedence. Okay. 15-0. We're 16-0 when we win the national championship, but we're going to do that to Miami. Then you're going to have Indiana basketball and Indiana football as the only two major college football programs who are 16-0.
That's right. They're having undefeated seasons is what you're referring to.
Right, having an undefeated season. So remember, we were at, what people consider the bottom of the barrel.
Oh, yeah. Even below that sometimes.
Yeah. Even below that, John. But when I told you about, the doorstep of dominance, and now we're inside and we're dominating, Coach, let me tell you something. The AD, Scott Dolson, and Coach Kurt Cignetti are both making each other look like a genius.
They are.
This guy, here's the difference. This guy, Coach Kurt Cignetti, he is chasing his craft, not a bag. But now you see the bag starting to come along with it.
Yeah.
He's getting paid. When I did history on this guy, he was an assistant coach with Alabama football under Nick Saban.
That's right.
He left his position as an assistant coach to become a head coach, and his salary dropped $250,000. Okay, so people are going to say, well, what's wrong with that guy? No, what's right with him?
That's called betting on yourself. He knew that there was an opportunity he kind of learned on the job, even though he was basing a lot of his philosophy off what he got from Nick Saban, and he just improved that over the years. And on top of that, whenever you get to Elon, James Madison, now Indiana, think about who he's had with them the entire time. Offensive coordinator Mike Shanahan and defensive coordinator Brian Haynes. I believe next year, if not this year, that will be 10 straight seasons with both of those guys right next to him as his coordinators. That is a level of continuity that is probably impossible to find elsewhere at any level of football nowadays.
You know why? Because he's teaching these guys, because the guy can recruit, he can train, he can develop, and he can darn sure coach. This guy is teaching his listen, chase the game, not the bag. The bag don't come with the game. The game comes with the bag. So you got to understand that these guys are learning how to be stable, consistent, and learning and take the right opportunities. Unlike a lot of these other athletes that are now in the portal, they see money, they jump, they run, they gone. You know, Coach Kirk Signetti, listen, I'll pretty much guarantee you that the conversation him and Scott Dawson had, and these are my own words. Scott Dawson probably asked him one question: Coach, give me your philosophy on winning. And when I say this, at first you're gonna be like, huh? But hear me out. His answer was, you know what? I don't care about winning. Scott Dawson probably, what do you mean you don't care about winning? Knowing Coach Kirk Signetti, his comeback was, anybody can win. I'm here to dominate. He's not happy. Listen, man, this guy, you see this guy? Listen, I look at him. These cats are up 34 points. He wants to take your will to win. He wants to take the fight out of you. He's not happy. Listen, I'm gonna tell you, so to him, a win is not just a win. Most people say, well, you got, you won the game. I guarantee you, if one of his players said that to him, he'd probably be like, maybe maybe you're not the right person to be in this program, because we're not here just to win. We're here to make a statement. And he's been doing that for the last 15 games.
Yeah, and even before that, you go back to last season, the dominance began early. There was just a lot more doubters. And, of course, you had the 2 losses at different points of the season last year as well. So it was I was going to say it was a slow burn. That's not really the best way to describe it. Last year was just kind of the appetizer for what eventually came this season. You won a Big Ten championship. They go to the Rose Bowl and dominate Alabama. You go to the Peach Bowl and get your revenge, but you double down on what you already did to Oregon once earlier this year, and now you're getting a shot at one of the traditional powers who's also kind of having a resurgence in Miami. So I kind of want to go back to my original question for you, DJ. What has the emotion been like for you as somebody who's a former player to see everything kind of transpire the way that it has?
I'm super excited, John. Just like everybody else, I've always been a believer. It's, sometimes it can be a little surreal, but I'm very super excited for these guys. I understand, without even being in that locker room, the philosophy. I understand the mindset. I understand that every time these guys go out on the field, that they have that dominate mindset, and these guys are out there playing reckless abandon. I mean, you said it. The emotions are played from the first whistle until the last whistle, and leaving it all out there on the field, man. I mean, these guys are playing this. They are playing with reckless abandon. You just said it. Alabama, he circled back. He probably told his team, "Oh, Oregon didn't get the message the first time, but they're gonna get it tonight." They got it. Okay. And then we can, that answers the question regarding the SEC. What can people say now? We beat Alabama. They only put 3 points on the board.
Yeah. I saw a meme of that somebody had posted after the fact that Alabama flew all the way out to California just to kick a field goal.
That's basically what it is. And I love this guy because he's, a lot of ADs will say, well, let's keep it, above board, coach. We know that we can win this game. Let's not embarrass him. Man, listen, Coach Kirk Signetti is going to embarrass you if you let him. He's going to do that. And when you see him stand on that sideline like this, he ain't, you know what? Yeah. Okay, we just scored 6 points and about to kick a field goal, but the game ain't over. We're still going.
So I guess looking ahead to this upcoming Monday against Miami, I feel like there's a level of confidence, not just from Indiana fans, but just from outsiders alike right now, that because of what Indiana's done, the regular season, the playoffs now, it almost feels like nobody's even giving Miami a chance at this game. How confident are you that Indiana is going to keep doing what they've done? I mean, we know they're going to execute. We know that they're not going to make mistakes that are, they're not going to be shooting themselves in the foot per se. It's going to be competitive, likely at the line of scrimmage between Indiana and Miami. That's where I think the game could potentially come down to. But how confident are you that it's still going to be kind of same old, same old? When people used to say same old Indiana, they were talking about the way they couldn't win games. Now the new same old Indiana is being able to execute game in and game out, and it almost never leaves a doubt on the field. What do you expect this upcoming Monday?
I expect to see the same Indiana football team that I've seen for the past 15 games with the same level of intensity, the same execution. I don't care who it is. See, like you said, a lot of people out there, well, first they were saying, well, Indiana has never been to the college football playoffs. Here we are. Well, Indiana has never been to the national championship. What do you, like you said, what do you expect to see? What do you mean what I expect to see? Have you seen what we've done the past 15 games? Have you seen all three phases of the game? Do you know who Scott Dolson hired and who our head coach is? Do you know the fans and alumni are behind us? See, one thing about Indiana faithful is Indiana faithful. You're not bandwagon fans. Once you become an Indiana Hoosier faithful, you're an Indiana Hoosier faithful. I don't care if it's Miami. I don't care if it would have been Alabama. I don't care who it would have been. And myself, I picked Indiana and Miami to be in the national championship. Obviously, I picked Miami to win. So
you picked Miami. Oh, you mean back earlier this season? You did earlier in the season.
No.
Okay.
When the college football playoffs came around, the teams were set. I picked Indiana and Miami to be in the national championship, and I picked Indiana to win. And guess what? I have not been wrong. If you bet on Coach Kirk Cignetti, you are going to win. The guy said it when he came to Indiana. Google me. All I do is win. And what has he done? Win.
So I guess we're gonna since we're talking about the confidence level of Indiana being able to get it done, let's just fast forward a little bit. And if Indiana is able to do what before the last couple of seasons, anybody in their right mind would have said that it's impossible for the Indiana Hoosiers football program to ever do any of this. What would it mean to you, to this program moving forward? Does this establish Indiana for, as one of the powers for years to come? We know Cignetti's in his mid-60s. He's probably got, give or take, 8 to 10 years left of coaching, maybe longer, depending on how his health is, maybe less, just kind of depends. But what are the repercussions for winning a game like this when you were previously a have-not, and then you become one of what Cignetti said last year was the emerging superpower of college football?
That's what you're seeing. I expect us to continue the dominance. Because like I told you, the doorstep of dominance, now we're dominating. See, people have said, oh, Nick Saban 2.0. I don't put Coach Kirk Cignetti's name in the same sentence as Nick Saban. Kirk Cignetti is establishing his own dynasty. We're just getting started. We're seeing NIL deals. We're seeing guys, that are benefiting from, this newfound Indiana football. We're seeing guys now that are, what do we do? We have a Heisman Trophy winner. Yep. Okay. Next thing, probably we'll have the number one pick in 2026 NFL draft in Fernando Mendoza. Okay, so you're going to see people just like, if you look at some of the news, and I'm sure you do, you read it, guys want to come to Indiana because they want to chase the game, because the game will bring the bag to them. If you see all these guys that were out there, they're chasing, I want to go to, Alabama because they've got 5 national championships. That don't mean they're going to have 6 because you're there. All right. Yeah. If you want to be consistent and you want the repercussions, you want dollars or, are now coming into Indiana football because we couldn't be paying Coach Kurt Signetti that kind of money if we didn't have the backing. The alumni are backing. They want to see more, and they will see more.
Yeah, Mark Cuban especially has been someone I've seen in the news recently. He's somebody, I didn't even realize this, DJ, that he had never cut a check for IU athletics specifically until last year after Kurt Signetti's first season with IU. He recently sent in another check. I don't know the exact dollar amount, but it was reported that it was much larger than the previous check that he had sent that is supposedly going to be used for transfer portal guys, that sort of thing. And that's another part of it. You were kind of hitting on this a second ago. It's getting better guys in the transfer portal. It's having the best recruits on campus, and some of them now committing to your program that would have never given you the time of day before. We keep going back. Doorstep of dominance has kind of always been like, that's your phrasing. I've always enjoyed that from you. And it's almost like there's different levels of it. First of all, first it was dominating the games, then it's dominating the playoff, then it's dominating recruiting, and then it's dominating for years to come. It's almost like the doorstep of dominance. You keep opening up to different doors after you go through each one, and I don't know what the eventual end game is. I guess it's just perfection in all facets every single year, which is, of course, likely impossible to be perfect every single time. But I think at the very least, Indiana fans could probably expect for as long as Signetti is residing in Bloomington, which I imagine will be until he retires at this point, that they'll be 10 feet past that original doorstep of dominance and dominating the Big Ten. And maybe they won't win the conference every single year, but they're always going to be contending in the conversation. They'll likely always be in the top 12 for the playoff, or if not in the top 12, just somewhere on the outside. But I mean, Signetti's not given anybody a reason to doubt before. And so I doubt you're ever going to see any reason to doubt him in the future. And so it's still just so surreal. We talked about this at the very beginning, that Indiana's in this spot and will likely be in this spot for several years to come until Signetti eventually hangs it up.
Yeah, he said what he's doing, he's setting a precedent. This is going to be, really the first coach that when he decides to retire, there are going to be some big shoes to fill.
Oh, yeah.
There are going to be some big shoes to fill. He'll be, like I told you, this is just getting started. All right. And I have to say this. And he's Coach Prime at Colorado, they hired him because of the name. Okay. Yeah. But the name has not produced the results. Scott Dolson said, I'm going to hire a guy that ain't got the name, but he has the desire to dominate. He has the desire to win.
And he had the results. The results were just at smaller schools where nobody was really paying as much attention.
Yeah, he already had those results. So now they're paying dividends. It's like every year they're going to have to, I see this guy being a $13 million a year guy.
He's already, so after they gave him his extension a few months ago, he became, I don't remember, I'm sure you're right, I'm in that ballpark. I know he became the third highest paying coach in America, right behind Kirby Smart and Ryan Day. I believe the only current college football coaches who have won a national championship, that haven't retired or that sort of thing, like that, or moved on to other jobs in the NFL, that sort of thing. So he's right up there in that upper echelon where he should be, even if he isn't, number one or number two per se. But also his contract has so many, it's bonus driven, it's incentive based. Yeah. So the more he wins in the playoffs, if he wins a national championship on Monday, that helps elevate even further what was already his base salary. So he's getting what he deserves for sure.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. He's getting what he deserved, and which is going to allow his assistants to get what they deserve as well. And, you're going to see, probably not this year, probably not even next year. Like you said, these guys have been with him, for a decade now. These guys are going to stay right there. They see how good they have it. They're going to continue to learn and continue to develop. And when it's time they will, you're not going to see the turnover at on the coaching staff like you do at a lot of coaching staffs, around the country. Oh yeah, this school has won 3, national championships, so now this guy's ready to be a head coach. I mean, like I said, Coach Kirk said, Nate, I guarantee you, I can promise you this, is that his word every day is dominate and annihilate every day. He in his training, in his coaching, when those guys get from the time that first whistle blows for practice, it is a high level of intensity. Those guys have and you asked me earlier about, from when when I played and Coach Mallory was coaching, yeah, it was a high level of intensity. These guys here have taken it to another level. Okay. This team that you're seeing here would have blew us out the water. Okay. I mean, Fernando Mendoza, listen, do you see his ball placement?
Oh my gosh. Some of the darts that he threw to Elijah Surratt, for example, during the Peach Bowl, one of them was a touchdown. One of them was a contested ball that it just went right into his chest. And credit to Surratt for having the hands that he does. That's what just makes this offense such a well-oiled machine, is that everybody is elite at their job and they're always on the same page. And that's why it's so hard to stop this Indiana team. And they hit their stride at different moments of the season. But really, I think once they won that Big Ten championship, DJ, I felt like that opened, so how do I phrase this? It opened the door to a level of confidence that I don't think was there. Like, they were already confident, but since that Big Ten championship game, they've been playing like they know they're the best team in the country. It's almost like they had that monkey on their back that was Ohio State kind of looming around the entire season. Everybody thought Ohio State was the best. They have the most expensive roster in the country. They have the most NFL draft picks. And it's almost like that was kind of just around. And then they finally got the best of Ohio State for the first time in 30 years. And even though they didn't dominate the scoreboard, they did dominate in the way that they played that game. And then it translated immediately to the Rose Bowl and then the Peach Bowl. And I think you're going to see a very similar type of performance in the national championship game against Miami. We'll have to wait and see on Monday. But DJ, any closing thoughts you have before we wrap this segment up?
Yeah, listen, to you guys out there who are now just coming on board, saying, wow, let me take a look at this Indiana football team and see if they're really as good. Even to Mr. Feinbaum, who didn't have any confidence. He had to walk back on his word. I am telling you guys, okay? Yes, I'm from down here in Florida, and I know speed kills, but let me tell you something. The way Indiana execute, the way they've been executing, that speed is not going to matter, okay? We're going to get in UM's butt from the start of the game. So, hey, come out and enjoy it. Let's go Hoosiers. And John, I, am looking forward to us having at least another conversation after the national championship. And I will, I will be in Miami myself probably like Saturday or Sunday.
Will you, if they win, will you be up in Bloomington when they do the victory parade? It's crazy. We haven't had anything like that around in Bloomington in a long time.
The national championship. Yes, I am coming to Bloomington for that.
DJ, I appreciate you coming on. Enjoy the national championship game on Monday if you're able to make it to Hard Rock Stadium. I know I won't be there. I don't have $3,000 for tickets, but hopefully you get a special deal being an alum or something like that. I hope you get to do something and make your way to that game. A big thanks to DJ and to Mitchell Paige once again for contributing to today's show. And I hope you are having a wonderful week. Hope you have a wonderful week, a good rest of whatever it is you have going on before you get to the weekend, because I'm sure many of you, like myself, like Mitchell, like DJ, I'm sure all that's on your mind is this Indiana football championship game that's going to be taking place. So for those of you who watch every single week, I almost said to listen every single week. Unfortunately, we don't have the show on Spotify right now. I've kind of been putting that on hold just because it's really, I like seeing the YouTube numbers where they are, and I don't really want to split that market. Maybe we'll bring both. We'll bring on the Spotify edition of the show down the road. But for those of you who watch the show, or maybe you just click on the YouTube channel and you just place it in your cup holder like I do with some of the shows that I listen to, and you listen while it's playing the video portion of the show. I appreciate all of you, those who comment and who have over the years and who followed me, whether it be on this show, on previous shows I've been a part of as well. It's a pleasure to have you on board the In Touch with Indiana Sports family, if you will. And as I've said before, I hope to continue to be able to do this for as long as my schedule allows me to. And I can't believe that that I have the pleasure to be doing this. And I thank you for your listen, for your view, for all those who subscribe and have gotten the show to where it is. I appreciate you greatly. And enjoy the game this Monday. I can't wait to talk about what happens. I'm very confident that it's going to be a positive result for IU. And even if it's not, that doesn't tarnish what this legacy is for this football team these last couple of years. But if it does happen the way that we hope it does, it without a doubt becomes the best story in the history of college football. So with that being said, that is going to do it for today's episode. I appreciate you, as I've mentioned, and we'll be back again at some point next week to do it all again. You heard me at the end of that segment with Mitchell Paige. We'll aim for a Wednesday release. It also wouldn't surprise me if it ends up having to be Thursday. It's all going to depend whether or not, or when he's able to get back home, because he is going down to the game on Monday, so he may have to do some traveling back on Tuesday. And so all the logistical sides of things, we'll cross those bridges whenever we get to that next week. So we will have a reaction episode to all of this next week at some point. So until then, this has been another edition of In Touch with Indiana Sports, powered by thehoosier.com.